Welcome back to the podcast where we talk about real growth, not quick motivation. And today's episode is especially important because we are talking about self-discipline, the one skill that decides whether talent survives or dies, whether dreams stay on paper or turn into reality, and whether life slowly improves or quietly stays the same for years.
I'm really glad we're talking about this, because most people think success comes from confidence or intelligence, but in my experience, self-discipline matters more than both, because confidence comes after discipline, not before it, and intelligence means nothing if you don't use it consistently.
That's such an important point, because people listening right now are probably waiting to feel motivated before they take action, without realizing that motivation is emotional and temporary, while discipline is logical and reliable, and logic always outlasts emotion.
Exactly, and I say this as someone who spent years waiting for the right mood to work, improve, or change, only to realize later that the right mood never comes on its own, and that discipline is what creates momentum when motivation is missing.
For the listeners who feel stuck, can you describe what life looked like for you before discipline became part of your daily routine? Because many people might see themselves in your story.
Before discipline, my life looked busy but unproductive, because I had plans, dreams, and intentions, but very little consistent action, and my days were full of distractions, overthinking, and excuses that felt reasonable at the time but kept me in the same place year after year.
That feeling of being busy but not moving forward is painfully common, and it slowly kills confidence without people even realizing it.
Yes, because when you keep breaking promises to yourself, even small ones, you start trusting yourself less, and once self-trust is damaged, success becomes very difficult, no matter how capable you are.
So what was the moment when you realized that something had to change, not tomorrow or someday, but immediately?
The moment came very quietly, late at night, when I was scrolling through social media and comparing my life to others, and instead of feeling inspired, I felt empty, because deep down I knew that those people were not necessarily smarter or luckier than me, but they were showing up for their goals every day while I was showing up only when it felt comfortable.
That realization can be painful, but it's also powerful, because it takes responsibility away from excuses and puts it back into our own hands.
Yes, and once I accepted that discipline was missing, I stopped trying to change everything at once and focused on doing small things consistently, because discipline doesn't grow through extreme plans, but through simple actions repeated daily, even when they feel boring or pointless.
This is important for listeners, because many people fail not because they lack discipline, but because they try to be perfect instead of being consistent.
Absolutely, and my first rule was very simple, which was to do at least 30 minutes of focused work every day, no matter how I felt, because I wanted to teach myself that action does not depend on mood.
How did your mind react when you started forcing yourself to work even on low energy or low motivation days?
My mind resisted strongly at first, because it kept giving me logical-sounding excuses like rest today, start again tomorrow, or one day won't make a difference, but discipline taught me that one day always makes a difference, because one day easily becomes a habit of quitting.
That's such a valuable lesson, because people often underestimate the power of small daily decisions.
Yes, and over time I realized that self-discipline is really about choosing long-term respect for yourself over short-term comfort, because every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, your confidence grows silently.
Many listeners struggle with distractions, especially phones and social media. So how did discipline help you manage that without completely cutting yourself off from the world?
I learned that discipline doesn't mean removing everything you enjoy, but controlling when and how you consume it, because if you let distractions decide your schedule, your goals never get time. So I started protecting certain hours for focused work and treating them as non-negotiable appointments with my future self.
That idea of an appointment with your future self is powerful and very practical.
It helped me understand that success is not built in moments of excitement, but in moments of resistance, when you feel tired, bored, or unmotivated, yet still choose to show up.
Did you notice changes in your life quickly, or did it take time? Because many people quit when results are slow.
Results took time, and that was the hardest part, because for weeks and even months nothing visible changed, but internally something very important was happening, which was that I was rebuilding trust in myself, and that self-trust later turned into confidence, clarity, and progress.
This is such an important message for listeners, because discipline often works silently before it works visibly.
Exactly, and over time, discipline also changed my identity, because I stopped seeing myself as someone who tries and started seeing myself as someone who does, and once your identity changes, your actions naturally follow.
If you had to give listeners a few simple discipline principles that actually work in real life, not in theory, what would they be?
I would say wake up when you promised yourself you would, start your day with the hardest task instead of the easiest one, never allow zero-effort days even if progress is small, control what you consume mentally because it shapes your thoughts, and most importantly, choose discipline over motivation, because motivation is a feeling and discipline is a decision.
That's extremely helpful. And before we close, what would you say to someone who feels overwhelmed and thinks it's too late to change?
I would say it's never too late, but it becomes harder the longer you wait, because discipline does not require a perfect plan or perfect timing, it only requires a decision to start showing up today, even if your effort feels small.
That's a powerful way to end, because self-discipline is not about becoming strict or harsh with yourself, but about becoming reliable, so your future no longer depends on hope, but on action.